السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الكلام كلام الله، وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. وبعد. Indeed, in these few moments that we have before us, we address our beloved brothers and sisters there in India. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises from them the hardship and the difficulty and the oppression that they are now facing, and that Allah Azza wa Jal make their affair easy. Particularly during this month of Ramadan, no doubt we raise our hands and we ask Ikhwan that Allah Azza wa Jal remove this hardship and this difficulty from our brothers and sisters there. We address then and we share these few moments to look into the life of one of the great figures from the Salaf of this Ummah. Since each and every one of us as people of Sunnah and people of Salafiyah, each and every one of us, by virtue of the ascription that we have given to ourselves, that is Salafi, the Salafi is the one that follows the way of the Salaf. The Salaf being the pious predecessors from the first three generations of this Ummah, the Sahaba, the Tabi'un, and the Atba' Tabi'in. It is imperative for us to follow them, that we are acquainted with them. How will we possibly follow someone and follow the footsteps of an individual we know nothing about? And so it is from great benefit for the person of Sunnah to acquaint himself with the biographies of the Salaf of this Ummah. Many of these biographies, أيها الإخوة, it is not possible to have a short sitting and discuss them. These were illustrious lives that spread over many decades. And so the only thing that we can do in a sitting like this is just take some benefit from the lives of these ulama. And in today's session, we wish to look at Alimun Jalil, a great noble scholar from the scholars of the Atba' Tabi'in, and that is that Imam Ikhwan that has been described with all of the khisal of khair, all of the characteristics of khair. The people who have written from among the ulama, have written around his biography, have mentioned that he gathered all of the characteristics of khair, all of the characteristics of good. And that is the great Imam Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak ibn Wadih Al-Hanzali Al-Tamimi Abu Abdul Rahman Al-Marwazi. Al-Imam Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, Al-Hafid ibn Hajar, when he made mention of him, he refers to him as thiqatun, thabtun, faqihun, alimun, jawadun, mujahidun, jumi'at fihi khisalul khayr. That is, he referred to him as thiqa, trustworthy, thabt, established in knowledge and in memorization, faqih, a jurist, alim, a great scholar, jawad, hugely generous, and mujahid, one who fought in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal. And then he mentions at the end of his statement, indeed there was gathered within him all of the khisalul khayr, all of the characteristics of khayr and of good. Imam al-Dhahabi rahimahullah ta'ala, he refers to him as Shaykh Khurasan. He refers to him as the Shaykh of Khurasan. And when he speaks concerning him in Siyar A'lam al-Nubala, he mentions Al-Imam, Shaykh al-Islam, عالم زمانه وأمير الأتقياء في وقته أبو عبد الرحمن الحنظلي مولاهم التركي ثم المروزي الحافظ الغازي أحد الأعلام وكانت أمه خوارزمية. He mentioned that he was the Imam, Shaykh al-Islam, the alim of his time, the Amir of the God-fearing in his era, Abu Abdul Rahman al-Hanzali مولاهم التركي ثم المروزي, the Hafiz and the great warrior, one of the huge figures within Islam. Al-Imam Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, أيها الإخوة, he was born in the year 118 after the Hijrah. He began seeking knowledge in relation to many of the other figures among the Salaf from the age of 20 years old. And so he was slightly older when he began in his search for knowledge. But one of the earliest of the shuyukh that he took from was Al-Rabi' ibn Anas al-Khurasani, that he benefited from him in hadith, and some of the narrations mention he took some 40 hadith from him. Al-Imam Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, from his shuyukh and from those who taught him, we have the likes of Sulaiman al-Taymi, we have the likes of Asim al-Ahwal, we have Humayd al-Tawil from among them. And then we find that he himself had many illustrious students. Even though, ikhwan, the list of imams that he took from are many. يعني Hisham ibn Urwa, he took from Ismail ibn Abi Khalid, he took from Imam A'mash, he took from the likes of Abdullah ibn Abdullah or Burayd ibn Abdullah ibn Abi Burda. He took from the likes of Khalid al-Hadza, Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Ansari, Musa ibn Uqba, يعني أئمة al-Awza'i. He took from A'imma, أيها الإخوان. Those who took from him were likewise A'imma. He took from Al-Layth ibn Sa'ad, he took from Malik ibn Anas, he took from Ismail ibn Iyash, he took from both Hammad ibn Salama, Hammad ibn Zayd. And then those then who took from him, we had the likes of Ma'mar bin Rashid, we have the likes of Sufyan al-Thawri, we have the likes of Abu Ishaq al-Fazari, we have the likes of Baqiyya, we have the likes of Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi. We have the likes of Abu Dawood al-Sijistani. We have the likes of the great Imam Abdul Razak ibn Hammam al-San'ani. We have the likes of Yahya bin Sa'id al-Qattan. We have the Imam Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba. Imma ayyuha al-ikhwa who took from this great Imam. And there is little wonder that these A'imma took the likes of Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak as their ustad and as their teacher. For indeed, ikhwan, he was from among those who, his contemporaries, they gave up hope in trying to compete with him in relation to good and in relation to khair. In that regard, we have many beautiful statements from the Salaf of this Ummah, and we'll mention a few of them. We have the likes of the statement of Ismail ibn Iyash, who was from his students and was from his teachers. Ismail ibn Iyash, he said, ما على وجه الأرض مثل ابن المبارك ولا أعلم أن الله خلق خصلة من خصال الخير إلا وقد جعلها في عبد الله ibn Al Mubarak. في Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak. He said that indeed there is not upon the face of this earth like Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak. And I do not know that Allah Azza wa Jal has created a characteristic from the characteristics of good except that they are present within Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak. Sufyan al-Thawri, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions, إني لأشتهي من عمري كله أن أكون سنة مثل ابن المبارك. He said that indeed I wish that I could be 1 year like Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak. And perhaps the reason he made this statement, perhaps, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best, is on the basis of that which was mentioned by Al-Imam Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi. Muhammad ibn A'yun, he mentioned, سمعت عبد الرحمن بن مهدي واجتمع إليه أصحاب الحديث فقالوا له جالست الثوري وسمعت منه ومن ابن المبارك فأيهما أرجح. He mentions that Al-Imam Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, on an occasion he sat and the companions of hadith, they sat around him and they were with him. And so they said to him, you sat with Sufyan al-Thawri and you took from him, and you likewise took from Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak. So which of them is to be given precedence in your opinion? And so Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, he responded by saying, لو أن سفيان جهد على أن يكون يوما مثل عبد الله لم يقدر. He said, if Sufyan tried and strived to be like Abdullah for just 1 day, he would not be able. If he tried to be like Abdullah for just 1 day, he would not be able. And we know, ikhwan, of the great imama and the pedigree of Sufyan al-Thawri. Here is Abdul Rahman ibn Mahdi, this great naqid and this great criticizer from the scholars of hadith, this mountain of knowledge. He said if Sufyan tried to be like Abdullah for just 1 day, even though they were contemporaries, for just 1 day, he would not be able to do so. And so Sufyan, he mentions concerning himself, إني لا أشتهي من عمري كله أن أكون سنة مثل ابن المبارك. He said, I try and desired the whole of my life to be just 1 year like Ibn Al Mubarak. He said, فما أقدر. He said, but I'm not able. أن أكون ولا ثلاثة أيام. He said, but I was not able. I found myself unable to do so for even 3 days. To be like Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak for even 3 days. And so this was not just a statement of Abdurrahman bin Mahdi, rather Sufyan al-Thawri affirmed that himself. I've tried to be like Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, but I was not able to do so, not even for 3 days. There is no doubt that the characteristics that have been mentioned concerning him are truly ikhwan, awe-inspiring. A group of individuals gathered with Al-Fudayl ibn Musa and Makhlad ibn al-Husayn, and they said, تعالى نعود خصال ibn al-Mubarak min abwab al-khayr. They said, come, let us enumerate the virtues of Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, the virtues that he had from khair and from good. Let us sit and try and enumerate them. Let us try and enumerate them. And so they mentioned al-ilm, wal-fiqh, wal-adab, wal-nahu, wal-lugha, wal-zuhd, wal-fasaha, wal-shi'r, وقيام الليل والعبادة والحج والغزو والشجاعة والفروسية والقوة وترك الكلام فيما لا يعنيه والإنصاف وقلة الخلاف على أصحابه. When they began to enumerate these things, they came up with the following list. Ilm, his knowledge, his vast knowledge, his fiqh, his understanding and his being from the fuqaha, from the jurists within Islam, his adab, and this term adab could be a reference to one of two things: his actual character and his mannerisms, or it could be connected to al-adab al-lughawi, yani the adab that is a branch from the branches of the sciences related to the language, since the term adab is used to refer to that which is connected to Arabic literature and the body of Arabic literature, being familiar with that, studying that and looking at the content of the Arabic literature. So that is possible since he followed that with nahu, with grammar, and lugha, and the broader knowledge of the language, and zuhud, abstention from the dunya, fasaha, yani him being eloquent in speech, since it was mentioned concerning him that he was extremely eloquent in speech. He mentioned shi'r, since Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak was well known for constructing lines of poetry, and he could do so on the spot, and it wasn't something he would have to sit down and write. And in many of the narrations concerning Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, from his knowledge and his wisdom and from his strong language, he was able to on the spot bring about lines of poetry. And so you'll mention, or you'll read narrations that, and it will mention فَأَنْشَدَ ibn Al Mubarak. فَأَنْشَدَ meaning, and so he constructed some lines of poetry, yani on the spot. They mention وَقِيَامُ اللَّيْلِ, and him standing by night, وَالْعِبَادَةِ, his worship, وَالْحَجِّ, him performing Hajj regularly. It was said concerning him that he would perform Hajj 1 year and that he would go on Ghazu the following year. And since that statement has been made, we have the statement wal Ghazu, yani him going out and participating in the various battles that were present during that time. As you mentioned, some of the narrations mentioned that he would make Ghazu 1 year, he would fight 1 year, he would make Hajj the following year. Ghazu 1 year, Hajj 1 year. He continues, وَالشُّجَاعَةِ, He was known to be brave. And that is whether bravery in terms of his statements and bravery in relation to his mawaqif and the positions that he took against individuals, knowing that these mawaqif required bravery. Likewise, that he was brave and courageous upon the battlefield. And him being a skilled horse rider. Likewise, his quwwah, his strength. And him leaving, speaking about that which does not concern him. Tarkul kalam fima la ya'ni. And we require lectures and lectures and lectures, ikhwan, upon this topic. Likewise, from his characteristics was al-insaf, his justice. وَقِلَّةُ الْخِلَافِ مَعَ أَصْحَابِهِ. Another one of the praiseworthy characteristics of Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak was him having little khilaf, little opposition with his companions. Yani it was known that he was easygoing with his companions, those who were close to him. That he wouldn't argue with them and he wouldn't oppose them, he wouldn't debate with them. He was easygoing and a beautiful character to be with, a beautiful person to accompany. And many narrations indicate him wishing to serve his companions. And he was not the one who said, well, I am Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak al-Ma'ruf. My seerah is well known and people across the globe travel to see me. And so those who are around me should serve me and service me and look after me. And fight over that and compete with each other for that. Not like many ikhwan of the people who attribute themselves to knowledge from the people of innovation and bid'ah, who expect that those who are from their students, expect that they are to serve them and to almost worship them. Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, ikhwan, bil'aks, he was the opposite. He went upon a journey with a group of individuals from them who were his students. He said, and we had all planned to serve him. فَإِذَا هُوَ يُخْدِمُنَا. We had all planned that when we go upon this journey, we're going to look after the Shaykh. We're going to take care of the Shaykh. Upon the journey, he said, فَإِذَا هُوَ يُخْدِمُنَا. And the affair turned out that he was the one that was serving us. He was the one that was serving us. And this was from the tawadu' and from the humility of the Salaf of this ummah, Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een. Habib al-Jallab, he said, سألت Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, ما خير ما أعطي الإنسان. Listen, ikhwan, to the beautiful advice, the huge and immense wisdom of Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak with his response to this question. Here, Habib al-Jallab, he said, I asked Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, what is the best thing that a human being can be given? Listen to the question, ikhwan, and anticipate the answer. What is the best thing that a human being can be given? Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, he responded, غريزة العقل أو غريزة عقل. He said, abundance in aql. Abundance in aql. And ikhwan, we need to be careful when we hear these statements. When they used to say that he was aqil, or that he had an abundance of aql, these statements were not the understanding of the aql that we have in our time. Yani that he was an intellectual. Though they were intellectuals. But when they would use this statement, the statement was used to refer to a combination of things that caused them to refer to him as an aqil. Yani the level of his deen, him seeking knowledge of the deen, him being wise in relation to his knowledge, wise in relation to his fatawa, him being a shepherd over the ummah, and so on. Yani this affair of one being aqil, yani this praiseworthy characteristic that they would use, it was not like the characteristic that it is used, or just the general linguistic meaning in our time. Just as, for example, we have the statement of Abdurrahman ibn Mahdi, who mentions ما رأت عيناي مثل أربعة. He said, my eyes have not seen the likes of 4. He said, ما رأيت أحفظ للحديث من الثوري. He said, I have not seen one who is greater in memorizing hadith than الثوري. He said, ولا أشد تقشفا من شعبة. He said, I have not seen one who was greater takashufan. And this term takashuf is a reference to abstaining from the dunya, and sometimes ikhwan, it may refer to living an ascetic life. Sometimes garments maybe not the best form, any rough garments and what have you, a life of zuhud and abstention from the dunya. He said, I have not seen anyone greater in this regard than Shu'bah ibn al-Hajjaj. He said, وَلَا أَعْقَلَ مِن Malik. And I have not seen one with greater aql than Malik. And so this a'qal, anyone who is familiar with the biography of Malik, rahimahullah, Imam Malik ibn Anas, Imam Dar al-Hijrah, then you will know that he was a man that was sahib ilm and hadith, and a person of composure and tranquility, a person who was from the greatest of the fuqaha of Medina, one who in terms of his character, the people would come to sit and benefit from his character more than in some instances they would do with his knowledge and with his ilm. And so here Malik is referred to as a'qal, from the a'qal in nas, from the people who had the biggest and the greatest aql. And so it is not just a reference, ikhwan, to being smart and intelligent and bright and astute, though those characteristics are a part of it. But this term, when they would use it in this praiseworthy manner, they would use it to refer to a combination of things. If you were truly intelligent, you would worship your Lord and Creator. If you were truly intelligent, you would increase in knowledge concerning Allah Azza wa Jal. If you were truly intelligent, you would emulate the prophets and the messengers in their character, and you would emulate the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim. If you were truly intelligent, then you would spend your time with the book of Allah Azza wa Jal. You would spend time with the sunnah of his messenger alayhi salatu wassalam. If you were truly intelligent, then you would not give precedence to desires, rather you would give precedence to the text. This is true intelligence. And so when they would make this statement, they would make it concerning real intelligence, and that is the one who is intelligent in relation to following the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, and is bright in connection to all of this. And so he does have intelligence as we would understand it, but it is regulated by the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. And that was the third individual that he mentioned. He said, وَلَا أَنصَحْ لِلْأُمَّةِ مِنْ Ibn Al Mubarak. He said, and I have not seen one. This is the fourth person that he mentioned. I have not seen one that was greater in advising the ummah than Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak. And we'll perhaps see an example or two of this. And this here, this narration of Habib al-Jallab is a perfect and a beautiful example. So he said to him, what is the best thing that a human being can be given? ما خير ما أعطي الإنسان. What is the best thing that insan, or that a person can be given? And then Imam Abdullah, he responds, غزيرة عقل. He said an abundance in aql. And again, aql in this sense that we've mentioned previously. He said, قلت. So I said to him, فإن لم يكن. He said, and if the person doesn't have this, if he doesn't have this huge aql, intelligent, bright, memorizing the deen and text and understanding and seeking knowledge and so on, if he doesn't have this, Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, he said, then husnu adab. Then that he has good adab, that he has good mannerisms, that he is sahib fadlan, fadila, that he carries himself well, he has good adab, good mannerism. قلت فإن لم يكن. He said, and what if one does not have this? قال أخ شفيق يستشيره. He said, if he doesn't have that, then he should have a good brother that is that is compassionate with him, cares for him, that he seeks and takes advice from. He said, قلت فإن لم يكن. He said, and what if he doesn't have that? He said, فصمت طويل. He said, then he should have long periods of silence. If he doesn't have aql and deen and fiqh and understanding, then he should at least have good adab. If he doesn't have, and he's not able to do so, then at least that he has a brother that cares for him, that advises him well. And if he doesn't have that, then let him have long periods of silence. That is better for him in his state. قلت فإن لم يكن. He said, what if he doesn't have that? He said, موت عاجل. He said, then a hasty death. Allahu Akbar. That is better for him. The one who lacks aql, lacks intellect, lacks deen, lacks adab, lacks one who advises him with good. He's not able to keep his mouth shut upon his ignorance. He said, فَمَوْتٌ عَاجِلٌ. Then a hastened death, that may possibly be better for him in that state. Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, he likewise mentioned, مَنْ يَبْخَلُ بِالْعِلْمِ. This is a different narration, it's not the same narration of Habib. He mentioned, مَنْ يَبْخَلُ بِالْعِلْمِ ابْتُلِيَ بِثَلَاثٍ. He said, the one who is miserly with his knowledge, then he is tried with three things. إِمَّا مَوْتٌ يَذْهَبُ عِلْمُهُ. He said, or يُذْهِبُ عِلْمُهُ. He said, he is either tried with death that causes his ilm to disappear. So if he is miserly with departing and disseminating his knowledge, he is tried with death that will cause his knowledge to disappear. He said, وَإِمَّا نِسْيَانٍ. Or he is tried with forgetfulness. Because he was miserly with his knowledge, he receives the recompense and the uquba of forgetfulness. He said, وَإِمَّا يَلْزَمُ السُّلْطَانِ فَيَذْهَبْ عِلْمُهُ. He said, or he begins to cling to the sultan, to cling to the ruler, and thus his knowledge and his ilm, it disappears and it goes. These statements, ikhwan, we should understand that they are statements that issue from a heart that is filled with ilm and zakah and purity and khair and hadith and the book of Allah Azza wa Jal. And thus we find, ikhwan, that the mishkat and the light is the light of nubuwah. These statements issue from that. And that is not what we're saying, that he was a Nabi. Rather, that we're saying that his inspiration, based upon his knowledge of the deen of Allah and his knowledge of the sunnah, then his advice, you'll see, the advice of these ai they are resemblant, ikhwan, to pieces of advice that you would hear attributed to one of the prophets or the messengers. And that is to say, they are resemblant in nature. Advice that returns back to the book. What was it that the prophets and the messengers came with? They came with wahi. And they conveyed that wahi. And similarly, the one who is very well acquainted with the wahi, you'll see these pieces of advice being even resemblant in many ways to the advices that would come from the prophets and the messengers. And that is because these ulama, they are the warathatul anbiya. They are the inheritors of the anbiya. As the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he mentioned. Ibn Al Mubarak, he mentions, إن البصراء لا يأمنون من أربع. Listen to this beautiful piece of advice, ikhwan. He mentions, rahimahullah ta'ala, that indeed those who have clear-sightedness, they do not feel safe from 4 things. Listen to these 4 issues. Those who have clear-sightedness, real knowledge and wisdom and understanding, they do not feel safe from 4 things. ذنب قد مضى لا يدري ما يصنع فيه الرب عز وجل. He said a sin that has passed, that he does not know what Allah Azza wa Jal is going to do with him in relation to it. A sin, and this is the nature of the muttaqeen, ikhwan. They worry about their sins. They worry about the things that they have committed and carried out. Regardless of whether they cried, repenting to Allah Azza wa Jal from them, they still worry. What is Allah Azza wa Jal going to do with me on that day that I stand before him, the day that I meet him? This is the attitude, ikhwan, of those who have clear-sightedness. And so he mentions ذنب قد مضى لا يدري ما يصنع فيه الرب عز وجل. He said a sin that has passed that he does not know what Allah Azza wa Jal is going to do in relation to it. What Allah is going to do to him. He said secondly, وعمر قد بقي لا يدري ما فيه من الحلكة. He said, and a life that he has before him that remains, and he does not know what may be in it from destruction. And Allah Azza wa Jal may have preserved him up until that point, but he doesn't know. Perhaps destruction is in front of him. Can anyone feel secure from that? Feel safe from that? So he mentioned a life that remains, and he does not know what may be within it from destruction. He mentions وَفَضْلٌ قَدْ أُعْطِيَ الْعَبْدِ لَعَلَّهُ مَكْرٌ وَاسْتِدْرَاجٌ. He said, and virtue that servant has been given, that perhaps it may well be a plot against him, and istidraj. Istidraj, ikhwan, is that Allah Azza wa Jal makes the individual feel comfortable before he takes him with punishment. As Allah Azza wa Jal mentions concerning the kuffar, سَنَسْتَدْرِجْهُمْ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ وَأُمْلِي لَهُمْ إِنَّ كَيْدِي مَتِينٌ. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions that indeed, سَنَسْتَدْرِجْهُمْ, we shall gradually make them feel comfortable in such a way that they will not realize. And I will give them time. Indeed, my plot is, and my plan is strong. And so, he mentions his third characteristic. That is fadlun, virtue, that they have been given. لَعَلَّهُ مَكْرٌ وَاسْتِدْرَاجٌ. That perhaps it may be this plan and this drawn out plot, and not the virtue that he believes it to be. And it's something that is actually going to destroy him. He said, وَالضَّلَالَ قد زينت يراها هدى, أو قد زينت يراها هدى. He said, and dalala, that has been beautified, but he sees it as guidance. وزيغ قلب ساعة فقد يسلب المرء دينه ولا يشعر. He said, and the deviation of one's heart for a period, such that a person's deen may be stripped from him and he doesn't even realize. Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak rahimahullah ta'ala, ikhwan, he was strong in advising that one cling to the people of knowledge and that one cling to the ulama, not just to himself, but that one cling to the people of knowledge and to the ulama, as is always our advice, knowing that the ulama and the intent behind them are the ulama of sunnah and hadith. Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions again another beautiful piece of advice. من استخف بالعلماء ذهبت آخرته ومن استخف بالأمراء ذهبت دنياه ومن استخف بالإخوان ذهبت مروءته. He mentions that whomsoever belittles the ulama, then he loses his akhirah, he loses his hereafter. And that is, ikhwan, because of the fact that they are the rope to success in the hereafter. They're the ones who are going to teach the deen, and deen is taken from. So whoever belittles them, in essence, you're destroying your akhirah. He said, and whomsoever belittles the umara, the amir or the leader, the ruler, then he loses his dunya. They are in charge of arranging the affairs of the dunya of an individual. Whomsoever istakhaffa bihim, the believing the Muslim rulers within the lands of the Muslimin, then he loses his dunya. وَمَنْ اسْتَخَفَّ بِالْإِخْوَانِ, and whomsoever belittles the affair of his brothers and belittles his brothers, then his muru'ah leaves him. This term muru'ah is a reference to his noble character, and the people considering him one of noble character. So the one who belittles his brothers, then his muru'ah, this noble character, it disappears from him. And thus when he advised, whenever he would advise with the affair of deen and ilm, he would advise, of course, with Ahl al-Hadith. Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, he mentions, ad-deenu li Ahl al-Hadith. The deen is for Ahl al-Hadith. Wal-kadib lil-Rafida. He said, and lies are for the Rafida. Wal-kalam, that is theological rhetoric, is for the Mu'tazila. Wal-hiyal li Ahl al-Ra'i. He said, and tricks, using tricks and trickery in order to circumvent the ahkam and the rulings of the deen, are for the people of opinion. He mentions likewise, if on an occasion he witnessed one of his students, Nu'aym ibn Hammad, and this student of his, Nu'aym ibn Hammad, he saw him on an occasion with a person from the people of desires. He said, Nu'aym ibn Hammad, he mentions that concerning himself, as occurs in Al-Ibanat al-Kubra of Ibn Battah, he mentions, رآني ابن المبارك مع رجل من أهل الأهواء. He said, Ibn Al Mubarak saw me on an occasion with a man from the people of desires. He said, فَمَا كَلَّمَنِي. He said, so he did not speak to me. And oftentimes when it is said the people of desires, then it is in that era a reference to the people who fall into and fell into the bid'ah of the Mu'tazila, and speaking about the book of Allah Azza wa Jal, making ta'weel of the sifat of Allah and interpreting them away or negating them, or mentioning that the Quran is not the speech of Allah Azza wa Jal. He said, so Ibn Al Mubarak saw me. And Nu'aym ibn Hammad was an imam from the A'imma of Hadith, Nu'aym ibn Hammad al-Khuzai. He said that Ibn Al Mubarak, he saw me with this individual from the people of desires, and he didn't speak to me. He said, فَلَمَّا كَانَ فِي الْغَدْ. He said, when it was the following day, رآني فأخذ بيدي ثم أنشد ويقول. يا طالب العلم سارم كل بطال وكل غاو إلى الأهواء يمال وكل غاو إلى الأهواء ميال أو ميال إن القرآن كلام الله تعرفه ليس القرآن بمخلوق ولا بالي ولو أنه كان مخلوقا لغيره ريب الزمان إلى موت وإبطال وكيف يبطل ما لا شيء يبطله أم كيف يبلى كلام خالق العالي. He mentions, so he saw me the next day, he took me by the hand, and then he immediately began mentioning to me some lines of poetry. And as we say, he was well known for this, that he could just create or speak with poetry. So he took my hand and said, "O student of knowledge, be harsh and stern with every idle person of falsehood. For indeed, every individual inclining towards hawa and inclining towards desires. Indeed, the Quran is the speech of Allah. You should know that. The Quran is not created. Nothing that was created by human beings. لو أنه كان مخلوقا لغيره. If it was created, then it would have been changed by ريب الزمان إلى موت وإبطال, by the doubts that have occurred throughout time and caused it to die and would have caused it to be nullified. كيف يبطل ما لا شيء يبطله. How then can something that one is unable to nullify be nullified? أم كيف يبلي كلام الخالق العالي. Or how will the speech of Al-Khaliq Al-Ali, our exalted creator, how can that be destroyed? And so he gave these lines of poetry advising, but look, Ikhwan, and take the benefit from the manner in which Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak dealt with Nu'aym ibn Hammad. He didn't raise an issue in front of the one that he was with, but he made sure to pull him up the following day. He made sure to take him by the hand the following day. So the first day, Nu'aym ibn Hammad sensed that something was wrong. He said, because he didn't speak to me. And so that was enough and sufficient as a rad' and as a form of instilling within Nu'aym ibn Hammad, the Shaykh is upset, I'm doing something wrong. And not just the fact that he upset the Shaykh, but that clearly something was wrong. And so the following day he took him by the hand and he recited to him those lines of poetry. And so the following day he gave him advice, but in the most beautiful manner. Any abiyat and lines of poetry, ikhwan, that were beautiful in terms of their construction, but contained within that likewise advice for the one that he was speaking to. On an occasion, as occurs in the Muqaddimah of Sahih Muslim, in the introduction of Sahih Muslim, Imam Muslim, he mentions a narration wherein he mentions that Ali ibn Shaqiq, he said, سمعت Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak يقول على رؤوس الناس دعوا حديث عمرو بن ثابت فإنه كان يسب السلف. He said, I heard Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak saying in front of all of the people, and that is, so he made it, he proclaimed this statement in front of his students, in front of his gathering. He said, leave the hadith of Amr ibn Thabit. Don't take the hadith of Amr ibn Thabit. Why? He said, فَإِنَّهُ كَانَ يَسُبَّ السَّلَفِ. He said, because he used to curse the Salaf. Here we take, Ikhwan, a number of benefits. The first of these benefits is that this narration was collected by Imam Muslim in the Muqaddimah of Sahih Muslim. And in this narration, we have Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, who died in the year 181. And so this is early, ikhwan. He was within the generation that we ourselves refer to as Salaf. And he was from the Atba' Tabi'een. Yet here he is saying, do not take the hadith of Amr ibn Thabit, for indeed he used to curse the Salaf. He used to speak ill of the Salaf. And so he himself was using the term Salaf. And then they say, ikhwan, that the people of Sunnah and Salafiyya, that they have no precedence. It's just some new term that they've brought about, and they've created some new cult. While Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, who was a student of the Tabi'een, and they were students of the companions, here he's saying, leave the hadith of this man, because he used to curse the Salaf. Secondly, we understand and we take from it the attitude of the Salaf themselves. And that is that the Salaf themselves understood that success was in following the Salaf. And so, even though they were extremely close to the Prophet ﷺ in the time and the era of the Messenger of Allah, they still advised with the Salaf, and they still warned against speaking ill of them. And they still were mindful and protective of the Salaf of this Ummah. They didn't say that they were ulama, we are ulama, alhamdulillah. Rather, they understood that they were better than them, that they were greater than them, that they came before them, that they're closer to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ than them, or that they were actually students of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, as is the case with the Sahaba ridwanullahi alayhim. So here then, we have Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, him advising not to take the ahadith of such and such. Why? Because he used to curse the Salaf. Similarly, from the beautiful statements, Al-Imam Khatib al-Baghdadi, he mentions in Al-Faqih wal-Mutafaqqih, the beautiful statement of Muhammad ibn Khaqan, who mentions شيعنا ابن المبارك في آخر خرجة خرج فقلنا له أوصنا قال لا تتخذوا الرأي إماما لا تتخذوا الرأي إماما. This statement was a statement that Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak, he made towards the end of his life. In fact, Muhammad ibn Khaqan here, he mentions that we accompanied Ibn Al Mubarak towards the end, or at the last journey or trip that he went upon. And so we said to him, because clearly he was old and he was becoming elderly, he said, so we said to him, give us advice. And so what was his advice? One line. He said, لا تتخذوا الرأي إماما. He said, do not take opinion as your imam. Do not take opinion as your imam. And we'll round up then with one last statement. Since that statement, ikhwan, is as concise as it is, and as concise as it was, there is huge khair within it. If it is being said that you should not take opinion as your imam, then it follows that you must learn the Quran, you must learn and study the Sunnah, you must learn the statements of the Salaf of this Ummah, you must study ikhwan the nusus, and let your opinion return back to that. Let it rely upon that. Let it constantly be taken from that, and not from yourself, regardless of how intellectual and how astute you may be. And so we round up, ikhwan, with this final statement of the Imam Abdullah ibn Al Mubarak rahimahullah ta'ala. He mentioned, اعلم أي أخي أن الموت اليوم كرامة لكل مسلم لقي الله على السنة. Bearing in mind, it's the statement that he made in his era. He mentions advising one of his students, as was collected, ikhwan, by Imam Ahmad and Imam al-Bukhari, Imam Muslim and others. He mentions, know, O my brother, أن الموت اليوم, know that death today, dying today, is a karama, is a noble characteristic for anyone who dies and meets Allah upon the sunnah. He said, فَإِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ وإلى الله نشكو وحشتنا وذهاب الإخوان وقلة الأعوان وظهور البدع وإلى الله نشكو عظيم ما حل بهذه الأمة من ذهاب العلماء وأهل السنة وظهور البدع. He mentions, after saying then, know, O my brother, that dying today is a noble characteristic for the Muslim who meets Allah upon the Sunnah. He said, فَإِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. And indeed we return our complaints back to Allah for the desolate feeling that we have and for the disappearance of our brothers and for the little number of aiders and individuals giving aid and helpers that we have, and for the appearance of innovation. Indeed, we return our complaint back to Allah for the great affair that has come upon this ummah from the disappearance of its ulama and from the people of sunnah, yani the disappearance of the people of sunnah and the appearance of the innovated practices. No doubt, Ikhwan, this piece of advice is more relevant today than it has ever been. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. For indeed it is to Allah Azza wa Jal that we return our complaint in relation to what has overcome us from the disappearance of ikhwa, from the disappearance of those who were giving aid to the sunnah, from the appearance of bid'ah and it becoming widespread, what has overcome this ummah from the disappearance of the people of knowledge and sunnah and hadith and khair. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى يوفقنا وإياكم لما يحبه ويرضاه. On that point, Ikhwan, will round up.